Solano Family and Children's Services welcomes you to our subsidized childcare program. Subsidized childcare programs include the Alternative Payment Program and Cal Works Stages 1, 2, and 3. There are too many regulations and policies governing our program to go over everything in this video orientation. Therefore, we will only cover key things. In order to successfully participate in this program, you will need to read the documents provided, especially the program handbook designed to help parents and providers understand the requirements to participate in our subsidized childcare program. Please note that our handbook is also available on our website at www.solanofamily.org. Let's get started by going over some of the general information about our program. Solano Family and Children's Services is a private, nonprofit organization funded by federal, state, and local governments. We offer a variety of childcare services, but this orientation will focus on the subsidized childcare program. We are generally open Monday through Friday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., but closed to the public every Tuesday morning and all day the third Friday of each month. We have a brown mailbox outside our front door. Feel free to drop off your forms there if we are closed. Providers who participate in a subsidized childcare program are considered self-employed independent contractors and not employees of Solano Family and Children's Services. If we reimburse you $600 or more in the calendar year, we will send you a 1099 miscellaneous income tax form, which reports to the IRS and State Franchise Tax Board the exact amount we reimbursed you, and you most likely will have to pay taxes on that money. We do not deduct taxes from your reimbursement. If you have any questions about your tax liability, please consult a tax expert. This brings us to our next section on what we reimburse for. The subsidized childcare program serves eligible families who need childcare services. Children may participate in the program from birth through 12 years of age, as long as the family remains eligible. In addition, children unable to care for themselves due to a documented physical or mental disability may be served through 21 years of age. Our subsidized childcare programs are parental choice programs. Through the Child Care Resource and Referral Program, we help families find and select a child care provider who meets their family's needs. Our program reimburses the provider for part or all of their service fees. Providers are reimbursed for taking care of enrolled children while their parents participate in the CalWorks activity. Go to work, attend school, look for work, seek permanent housing for family stability, or are incapacitated. In a few cases, parents are approved for services because their child has an open Child Protective Services case or has been identified as being at risk of abuse, neglect, or exploitation. The parents' authorized childcare hours are based on their approved activity hours, plus lunch, transportation, and/or study time as applicable. If it is not on the certificate, we do not reimburse for it. The certificate we issue to you will list the enrolled children's names, the date range we will reimburse for, the maximum hours we will reimburse for, and it will have the regional market rate ceilings attached, as well as other reimbursement details. If we extend or change the authorized childcare hours, we will issue a new certificate. If we plan to end services before the last day stated on the certificate, we will send you a termination notice to provider, letting you know when we will stop reimbursing for services. You may not always receive a notice regarding termination, so please refer to the dates of the service on your certificate. Now let's review what we do not reimburse for. We do not reimburse for childcare provided before we authorize services. As discussed, if it is not on the certificate, we will not reimburse you for it. Extra hours of care, unless proof that the parent worked extra hours is submitted with the childcare attendance form. In shared custody cases, we only reimburse for care while the child is in the custody of the parent enrolled in our program, and we cannot reimburse you to hold a spot for the child while he or she is with the other parent. Days and times you do not actually take care of the child unless stipulated in your written business practices. For example, child absences, holidays, or vacations will not be reimbursed unless these absences are written in your parent policies. We do not reimburse for care provided during the time a school-age child would normally be in school. Examples of this would be a child who is age eligible for kindergarten, but not yet enrolled, a child enrolled in independent studies, or a child who is homeschooled. In these cases, the provider would only be reimbursed for the normal before and after school hours. Now let's talk about what the parent may directly need to pay you for. A copayment is the difference between what you charge us and the maximum we can reimburse for, based on the regional market rate ceilings of the county where care is provided. Some families on the subsidized payment program may have a family fee based on their income, family size, and certified hours of care. The monthly fee is based on the child who was authorized the most monthly hours. If the parent has to pay a family fee, you will receive a family fee notice. Our agency will assess the monthly fee. The parent then pays the child care provider directly by the first day prior to care, and then monthly in advance for the upcoming month. For example, August family fees are due by August 1st. Under no circumstance will monthly fees be recalculated based on the child's actual attendance. Since family fees are paid directly to the provider must submit a signed receipt, which is located on the back of the attendance form, providing evidence of payment. Fees will be considered delinquent on the date that Solano Family and Children's Services is notified by the provider that the family fees have not been paid. The monthly receipt is due with the attendance form. If the receipt does not indicate payment was made, the family fee is considered late. If family fees are not paid on time, we will mail the provider a delinquent family fee notice, asking for the receipt of payment received by you. If we do not receive the receipt, a notice of action to terminate services to the family will be issued. Upon termination for non-payment of delinquent fees, the family shall be ineligible for childcare services until all delinquent fees are paid. If the family is terminated from Stage 3 or from the California Alternative Payment Program, they may have to get on the waiting list, which is very long. A parent must pay any other fees charged by you that Solano Family and Children's Services cannot reimburse for. A parent may have all of these fees at the same time. One does not offset the others. There are specific eligibility requirements for providers who choose to participate in our program. All regular and backup providers must meet specific eligibility requirements prior to participating in our program and receiving reimbursement from us. Our subsidized childcare programs operate on the premise that parents have the right and responsibility to select the most appropriate childcare based on their child's needs. Therefore, the program offers an array of parental choice childcare arrangements, such as a childcare center, licensed family child care home, relative who is an aunt, uncle, or grandparent of the child, or a trust line cleared family member, friend, or neighbor who provides services in their home. Each provider type must be eligible in order to receive reimbursement from us. All provider types must be at least 18 years of age, cannot be the child's parent, cannot be a member of the parent's TANF assistant unit, must live within a 20-mile radius from the parent's home or approved activity, or en route from home to the activity, must be legally allowed to work in the United States, complete a W-9 form, provide their physical address and telephone number. In addition, a copy of the provider's rate sheet and policies is required. For providers who are relatives, which is defined as an aunt, uncle, or grandparent of the child. The relationship between the provider and the child must be by blood, marriage, or court decree. The child's older siblings, great-grandparent, great-aunts, or great-uncles do not fall under this category. They would fall under the exempt trust line family, friend, or neighbor provider type category. A trust line exempt relative must complete a health and safety certification packet and provide proof of physical address, in addition to other provider requirements. Now let's discuss the trust line family member, friend, or neighbor requirements. In California, providers who are not licensed to do childcare and do not fall under the category of trust line exempt are required to go through the trust line process. Please note that a trust line provider must be cleared and registered before reimbursement and can only care for the children of one unrelated family at a time. The trust line process includes completing and submitting a trust line application, fingerprinting through the LiveScan process, and completion of a criminal background investigation. In addition, proof of negative tuberculosis test results and proof of physical address are required. Please note that when care is provided in the parent's home due to labor and wage laws, we can only enter into an agreement with an in-home provider if he or she is the biological or adoptive parent of the parent enrolled in our program. If the parent has more than one provider, you and the other provider will be sharing the parent's total approved hours. Make sure you are only providing care during the hours that you have been approved for. Otherwise, you might not get paid for all of the other care. If you are a backup provider, we will only reimburse you for times that the primary care provider is not able to care for the child. Providers who are employed or go to school will be required to submit verification of their work or school hours, and Solano Family and Children's Services will verify that information. While children are in care, providers are expected to offer activities for children that nurture their growth and development. Providers are encouraged to attend workshops related to child development, health and safety, and nutrition. In addition, providers must allow the parent and Solano Family and Children's Services staff unlimited access to the child care facility while children are in care. Please note that these requirements are outlined in our handbook and on the provider eligibility chart. Let's move on to attendance reporting. The Child Care Attendance Form, known as the CCAF, is the document that is processed in order to generate reimbursement to the provider. Its completeness and accuracy is extremely important because it verifies the actual times the child was with the provider each day. Therefore, they must be completed daily. They are required by Solano Family and Children's Services and our state, federal, and county funding sources. CCAFs are released to the provider when the certificate is issued. Until then, the parent and provider must keep track of the in and out times on a calendar or temporary CCAF. Temporary CCAFs are to be used to track the child's attendance in your care until you receive the official CCAFs. You have one copy and it's on white paper so that you can make additional copies as needed. If the provider does not have a CCAF at least 1 week before the first day of the month of services, he or she must request a replacement right away. Until the provider receives the replacement, all times and signatures must be kept on a calendar or temporary CCAF and attached to the official CCAF when received in order for Solano Family and Children's Services to process the reimbursement. A sample CCAF is in your packet along with the instructions on how to complete it. It is very important to follow these guidelines. The guidelines state that the parent or parent's authorized representative that is 18 years or older is required to record the exact time in and out for each day, including AM or PM, unless the provider is transporting the child to and from school. If this is the case, the split schedule section would be used to record when the child left and returned to and from school. The pre-printed information on the CCAF cannot be changed. If you make a mistake on the CCAF, like writing on the wrong date, cross out the error and initial it, and fill in the correct information. If a child is not in care, please record A for absence, DNO for provider day of non-operation, or NC for no care on the appropriate day on the front page of the CCAF. If a child is absent on a regularly scheduled day of care, also record on the back of the CCAF the date and specific reason for the absence, along with the parent's full signature. Child care attendance forms must be completely and accurately filled out. When the last day of care for the month has been provided, both the enrolled parent and the contracted provider must sign under penalty of perjury that the information provided is true and correct, using ink and with full signatures. As a reminder, before signing a CCAF, make sure the front and back of the form is complete and accurate. These are legal documents designed to reflect the exact times the child was in your care and can be used in investigations or court hearings. Parent or providers are never to sign a blank CCAF and do not sign or submit CCAFs before the last day of care in that month. In addition, licensed providers must complete the billing section on the back page of the CCAF. All providers must complete the family fee statement when a family fee has been assessed by us. On the bottom of the CCAF, the parent change declaration serves as a reminder to report any changes that have recently taken place to your family services specialist. Child care attendance forms are due by the 15th of the month following the month of care. Complete and correct CCAFs received by 5 p.m. on Mondays will be processed. Reimbursements will be deposited 3 Fridays later and reimbursed based on the approved child care schedule. The sooner you submit your CCAF, the sooner you will receive your reimbursement. CCAFs received after the 30th of the month following the service month will not be processed. Instead, they will be held until the end of the fiscal year, which falls on June 30th. Reimbursement will only be made if funds are available at that time. Solano Family and Children's Services makes reimbursements to providers through our direct deposit system, which electronically transfers money into the financial account of the provider's choosing. Please note that in your packet you will find the reimbursement schedule. It is crucial that you report changes to us, such as when the child stops coming to you altogether. please let us know within 3 days. Changes in the location of care must be reported to us before the change takes place and must be in writing, as the change may affect approved hours and the provider's reimbursement. Licensed providers must notify community care licensing before they move, as the move will invalidate their childcare license, and they must be re-licensed in their new location. Change in telephone number must be reported right away, as this is the most common way we communicate with providers. Changes in bank account information must be reported immediately, as failure to do so may cause delays in your reimbursement. If the parent or you want to end your childcare relationship, we ask that you give each other and us a 2-week notice in writing. We can supply you with the form. Solano Family and Children's Services will only accept provider rate increases once per fiscal year, which falls between July 1st through June 30th. If the provider raises their childcare rates more than once per fiscal year, the parent will be responsible for paying the difference between the rate we are reimbursing and the provider's new rate. If the rate is above the applicable regional market rate ceiling, the parent is responsible for reimbursing the difference as well. Please note that providers must give Solano Family and Children's Services and parents a minimum of 2 weeks' notice when increasing their childcare rates. If the increase is approved by Solano Family and Children's Services, new weekly rates will start on the Sunday after the 2-week notice is received by Solano Family and Children's Services. New monthly rates will start on the first of the month after the 2-week notice is received. Because of this delay, it is important that you inform us immediately when you plan to increase your rates. Solano Family and Children's Services fiscal year closes on June 30th. CCAS for services provided up through June 30th must be received by Solano Family and Children's Services by July 31st in order to be processed for reimbursement. All childcare provided in the fiscal year must be claimed by July 31st. Any discrepancies in reimbursements must also be settled by July 31st. If the 31st falls on a weekend, the due date will be the next business day. Please note that these deadlines do not apply to the CalWORks Stage 1 program. In addition to the eligibility requirements we spoke of earlier, providers must review and submit documents, which includes the provider acknowledgments, provider's authorization for the release of information, Form W-9, the request for taxpayer identification number and certification, and the provider rate sheet. Before we conclude this orientation, we would like to share a few more things that pertain to licensed providers. Providers are expected to provide care during their hours of operation and during their authorized period, as specified on the certificate. If they do not for any reason, such as the provider is unable, unwilling, or unavailable, their reimbursement will be prorated to allow reimbursement to the backup provider. Supervision by the certified provider or their registered adult assistant must be maintained at all times when a subsidized child is in attendance. Many providers have identified days when their business is closed for holidays, vacations, staff development days, or for other various reasons. These days are called Provider Days of Non-Operation, known as DNOs. Solano Family and Children's Services can reimburse providers for up to 10 DNOs per fiscal year. In order to be reimbursed for DNOs, the providers must submit a copy of their business practices or contract stating what the expectations are. In addition, reimbursement for DNOs will be made only if the DNO falls on one of the child's certified days. And finally, let's discuss a licensed provider's rates. Licensed providers must display their childcare rates in a public area next to their facility license. Licensed providers are required to write their bill according to their own fee schedule on the back of the CCAF for each child in care. Failure to do so will result in a delay in reimbursement. Solano Family and Children's Services will reimburse the provider's rates as long as they are the usual and customary charges made to every family, whether or not the family receives subsidized childcare, and they are not higher than the regional market rate ceilings for the area in which childcare is provided, according to the regional market rate regulations. As discussed earlier, if the provider's usual rate exceeds the rate ceiling, the parent is responsible for paying the difference directly to the provider. This is known as the co-payment. You may lose your childcare reimbursements if you do not adhere to the rules established by Solano Family and Children's Services. With that said, please carefully review the Parent and Provider Handbook, which includes the reasons for termination. This video was developed with the use of state and federal funds and does not necessarily reflect the position or policy of the California Department of Education and Solano County Health and Social Services Department. It is important that you understand all program policies. Please direct any questions you have to our provider services specialist. Thank you for joining us for this program orientation. Enjoy your day.